Prieteni, astăzi îl avem alături de noi pe un om de credință și viziune, un antreprenor care a fondat mai multe companii de succes și un investitor dedicat. Dincolo de realizările sale în mediul de afaceri, el poartă o dragoste sinceră pentru Moldova și își dorește să contribuie activ la transformarea și dezvoltarea acestei țări, mai presus de lucrurile materiale, lucrurile cerești. Astăzi îl salutăm alături de noi pe Andrew Wells din Statele Unite ale Americii.
Thank you. Spasiba.
Andrew, îți mai aduce aminte prima dată când ai venit în Moldova și care a fost impresia ta cu privire la această țară?
First time I came to Moldova was in September of 2009. It was probably the most different environment I've ever been. I'd been to Mexico, so that was the only time I've ever been overseas. And then I came to Moldova and I couldn't even figure out where the light switches were. So it was a very interesting experience. And but what I really loved is the people were nice. I loved the people. The food was interesting. I mean, the fruits and the vegetables. I mean, I never eat fruits and vegetables. Well, I never eat vegetables. But over here, everything was so tasty. And I just enjoyed the hospitality. So I was very impressed with the people and just I saw that there was a really great future here. So.
Îți mai aduce aminte prima mâncare care ai mâncat-o aici în Moldova și care a fost impresia?
Yeah, so, as a guest, I was with a group at the time. So my first time I was here, I was with a group. And I remember being in a restaurant, I see a table full of, placenta. And I didn't know what placenta. So, and I'm looking at all these vegetables and I don't eat vegetables. So, and I was quite nervous. I didn't want to, but everything was very tasty. Like it was all new. All of it was new for me. The mamaliga kind of reminds me of, in America we have something called grits. And I don't like grits, but I always try to try everything when I visit. When I'm being a guest, I want to enjoy whatever's provided to me. And mamaliga, I liked it. Mamaliga was amazing. The cheese was good. Just the simple things. I was enjoying all the simple things. I love, everything was, it just felt peaceful. And so I really enjoyed it.
So, există vreun loc în Moldova în care te simți ca acasă?
Oh, all of it feels like home now. I have a home now. Yeah. Every time, it's kind of a running joke, but every time I come back with all my friends, they always, reach out to me and message me and say, welcome home. Because, it's like my heart.
Yeah, deci poți spune cu siguranță, bine ai revenit acasă.
Yeah, yes, it's exactly.
Dacă ai descrie Moldova într-un cuvânt, care ar fi acesta?
Mamaliga. Mamaliga. So what's coming to my mind right now as I'm thinking through it, I'm trying to think of what the word would be. But so I think about like change, hope, life, love, warmth. Like I'm thinking about that. So that's like the description. It's because it's the middle of, you got Romania, you got Ukraine. It's the middle of the big change. So, and I feel like it's going to be critical and foundation for a lot of that. So I'm thinking like love and growth. It'd be like, maybe, there wouldn't be one word, maybe like critical hope.
Why?
Because, when I look at Moldova, and Moldova is always discovered. Like rarely do people come to Moldova, foreigners come to Moldova because they're coming to Moldova. They come to Moldova because they're in Romania and said, why not? Let's check. There's always some attachment to Moldova. Same thing with people who go to Ukraine. And when I look at Moldova, I see this. It's like it's a transit point between the two worlds. You got the Eastern world, or like the Russian Slavic world, and then you got the Western world. And so Moldova seems to be this transit point between the two. And it's the foundation layer for a lot of it. So it's what's kind of connecting the two worlds. And so maybe 10, 15 years ago, politically you got West versus East, and this was ground zero, and it's moved to Ukraine. And so I feel like that this is, showing the world it's a small country, so there's a lot of things that can change very quickly. And so anything that anyone hopes for in terms of changing from the past to what they want to see in the future, I think it can happen here, and it can happen quickly. And not only can it happen quickly, it can be an example, because it's like a petri dish. You can test, you can try something, it may not work, but you try something new, it may not work, you can try something new. Like Moldova is small enough where you can do that and be relatively successful. And then when you are, it's great. You can be a big fish in a small pond. And as long as you're a big fish in any pond, you can jump to other ponds. So that's the unique thing about Moldova. Like, Maya Sandu has more access to my present than I do, all because she's a big fish in a small pond. And so there's a critical layer that Moldova has. It's a strategic, I think, for both. We're in the Bible Belt of Europe. So Moldova has a very interesting position. So it's something that, it knows Romanian and Russian, and it's the connector of the two worlds. And so whatever works here can be applied to it can translate to both worlds. You can do it in the spiritual world or in the ministry world, church world, business world. It's applicable. And I think here you can show it, you can share that, and that's the unique position about Moldova. So it's critical in that to translate to maybe the hope for the East, the Slavic world. I think Moldova is central for that, and then it gives light into it. The future. Whatever you want to think of, you could. If you can make it happen here, you can try it, you can make it happen, you can succeed, and then, it can multiply.
Pentru cei care ne privesc, dar încă nu te cunosc, cum te-ai prezenta, cum te-ai descrie în câteva propoziții?
A concerned citizen. We're all the same. Like, people are people. It's one of the things I learned when I was, when I was first coming to Moldova is I get to watch these kids. I'll be at McDonald's, and you watch kids at church, you watch kids at McDonald's, or anywhere you go, and they're all the same. We all grow up with hopes, dreams, wanting a future, trying to figure it all out. We grow up in different cultures and, with differing worldviews, but that happens in every country. There's always these subcultures, sub-worldviews, but at the end of the day, we're all the same people who feel pain, who love, want relationships, who want to be around others, and who want to do something great. We always start off with that, and then the environment changes us. And so we get to either be a thermostat or a thermometer. Are we going to be, someone that changes the environment, or are we going to let the environment change us?
Dacă cineva te-ar întreba cine este Andrew Wells și cum a ajuns astăzi să fie cel ce este, cum i-ai răspunde?
If I had to define myself from an environment, just a cultural perspective, faith-driven investor. Almost everything I'm looking at what do I want to be when I die? How do I want people to view me? And at the end of the day, I want to make sure that whatever I've done translates into some sort of multiplicative effort. And I want it to be more focused around what God wants. So it's always about expanding how do I help people? How do I make that sustainable? And how do I make sure that, because everything that we do, God's love works in the context of relationships. And so how do I use whatever talents and resources I've been given to be able to help expand that? And that requires investment. And it could be time. It's not about like money or anything, but it's just what do I have to be that is of me that can invest into others where then they could translate that to more.
Cum privești parcursul actual al Moldovei?
I think Moldova is trying to find its identity. You got the older generation who wants to go back to the past, but things were better. In a world of capitalism where there's a future, you have to work for your future. But those who are in their future, there's no time left to work. And so they want to just go back so they can survive. The newer generation are fighting for their future. And so when the younger generation is trying to fight for their future, they're competing with the older generation who are living in their future. And that's a big challenge for Moldova to fight for. I mean, when they're voting, that's what they're voting for, is they're voting for the interest of today. What does the older generation have to win for a capitalism? They're not, what are they going to achieve for their tomorrow? I mean, tomorrow is not going to take care of their heating bill today. It's not going to take care of the bread. It's not going to take care of that today. The younger folks, we're willing to invest and maybe sacrifice something for that tomorrow, so we can, buy that PlayStation and buy that BMW. That's what we do as young folks. We're willing to build that country. And so I think that's, as a younger generation is taking hold and really trying to strive for that, I think that's the challenge of the voters of today in Moldova. It's the challenge of the voters in Ukraine. It's you got two different generations who are competing for what today. Are they competing for today, or are they competing for tomorrow? I think there's a great future. I mean, the IT industry has already taken hold. They're a little bit separate from the corruption. They're a little bit insulated, but they are contributing to the market. There's a newer generation that's taking on leadership, and they seen what a different way of running a country could look like, and so they're trying to do that. So I think if the younger generation could, not ignore the older generation's challenges, like say, yeah, we're fighting for tomorrow, but here's what we can do about taking care of your today, then I think that will resonate with the older generation, because they want a future for their young folks too, but not at the expense of them. They put in their time. They worked hard. They had dreams and hopes too. So I think if Moldova could have a way of speaking to the older generation and saying, we're going to take care of your today while we're fighting for our tomorrow, I think Moldova could align on a common vision.
Mulți credincioși din țară spun că politica este ceva păcătos, nu vrem să ne băgăm în politică, nu vor să se implice în viața țării, chiar nu numai politica țării. Creștinii din Statele Unite au altă viziune. Ce i-ai sfătui pe cei din Moldova?
This is actually a really great question, and politics is very important. And I'm in my own transition phase as well, and this is what I discovered. So before I answer the question directly, I'm going to preface this. So one of the reasons why a lot of people don't want to be involved in politics is that we see politics as, corrupt. There's a lot of corruption in politics. When you have power and there's no checks and balances, you're saying, I don't want to be part of that. But the challenge is that, and when you don't feel like you can change it, then of course you don't want to be a part of it. I think that's the distinguishing thing about America, is that since the beginning of the birth of our country is that we've always talked about change. And that's what made us independent. And we're independent people. We grow up fighting our authorities. And it's because we don't get put in jail for it. So, we still have issues like, what happened recently with Charlie Kirk. If you become very influential, and there's still a fight. But the fight is necessary for truth. That's how you discover truth. So to answer your question on politics, it's important because if you don't get involved in politics, then at some point you either accept whatever the existing leadership is, or you fight with it. You fight for it in blood. Those are your only two options. You either fight for it by your vote, which requires either your time or your money, or at some point you got to get dressed, pick up a gun, and you're going to have to fight for your land because someone is going to take your leadership. We're experiencing that now, and we're afraid of it now. And so politics is important, and you should be blessed that you're able to now start voting and even have a chance at changing it. And so we need more activity, not less. And if leadership is evil, then change it. This is why you get to vote. And so the interesting thing is, so like throughout history, and this is how I've learned how to overcome this, is that the whole reason for kings over time is that they were the ones who rallied their people to protect their people. That's all they did. And then those kings had the power because they were protecting their people. So of course they were able to tell their people what to do because there was no one else to protect them. That's what kings did. They protected their people. And so always those people vying for that power, because during times of peace, I mean, what else do you do as a king? You can do whatever you want. But when there's times of war, you have to defend your kingdom. And so over time, it was just wars were essentially leaders deciding to take something, I either take what's yours, you take what's mine. At some point, you get someone who's going to help you defend what's yours. And eventually it becomes a kingdom. Well, somehow in America, and it's a genius move, but at some point we said, we recognize that we want protection, and then we created our leadership, and then we recognized there was that at some point, if leadership gets out of line, that we're going to find a way of changing it, and that usually happens through rebellion. We pick up our guns and we start rebelling, because that king or kingdom or leader or monarch, whoever it is, authority usually has the power to, oppress the people. Don't rise up, and I stay your leader one way or another. But if the people don't like it, there's only one way to change it. And so what the American government did, and this is fascinating, this is something that just changed me. I just finally realized this. American government says, okay, fine, let's just put in place a process by which we make a change. No matter what, at some point leaderships have to change because there's death. Authority leaders die, and they hand it off to somebody. Before America became America, they said, well, we can have a great leader, but they're going to die. So at some point, let's put a change process in place. And so they put a process in place where every 2 to 4 years, our government collapses and we get a new government. And then we find a way of collapsing it again, like it completely collapses and we have a new government. If we don't like it, just wait 2 to 4 years, it collapses and we get a new government. We do not have to rebel. We do not have to shoot people. We don't have to kill anybody. We don't have to do rebellion. All we have to do is yell, talk, discuss, dialogue, debate. That's all we do. And then at some point, how do we fight? Well, usually you create lieutenants and commanders in rebellions, you do that. But in our old politics, we do it through debate, and then we find someone who will fight for us. Those are your politicians. That's what they do. So instead of going and finding your own king and authority who's going to lead the revolution, you do that same thing, but in your little area, you find your mayor, your legislator, your congressman, and then they go out and do it, but they do it in a forum, and all they do is fight through dialogue. That's what America did. And so Moldova is beginning that. And it's up to Moldovans to decide how they want to collapse their government and start over when they don't like something, or keep what they want, keep what they have. And so they have to fight. And if you don't, you're not going to be strong. And if you're not going to be strong, at some point, a stronger, authority figure will come in with guns. And then you will have two choices. You either run or you pick up a gun. And so those are your only options. So it just hit me. This became very real more recently. And this is what Charlie Kirk fought for. He says, if we don't fight like this is what's going to happen. So that's what made him very effective. And so this is something and I have some friends that are, running for office as well. And this is what they say. It's like, so, you either choose, you fight with your time, you fight with your money, or you fight with your blood. Those are your options. And so pick one and get educated. And the best way to get educated is by talking through other people who are not the same, competing arguments, and try to find a common ground to common goals. You may not have the same solution, but if you have the common goal, maybe you'll come up with some solutions. By the way, this happens in business all the time. You don't want someone in an echo chamber because you lose money. But in a board member that yells at each other, they come up with the best solutions. And this is how the biggest companies get formed, is a board that yells at each other. Because because everybody wants to make money. It's agnostic. Some people want to do it their own way. That's fine. They can create their own company and then they go out of business. So this is why politics is important. It's a long answer, but I think this is really important.
Ai menționat despre Charlie Kirk și întrebarea mea este, are nevoie Moldova de un Charlie Kirk?
Moldova needs their own leader to lead them in a common future, a common goal. The churches need that. Moldovans need that. Everyone needs that. So Charlie Kirk was fighting for people to dialogue. I don't think that's exactly the problem here. I think over here it's just deciding on what that future is. So, we have Charlie Kirk, we have Trump, we have we have a variety of leaders that have their lane. And Charlie Kirk focused on one particular lane. He was going after educating young people. That was his main mission, is educate the young people and teach them to educate themselves. That's all he cared about. And he was a Christian, so he did it. He wanted to do it in a godly way. And we have people like Ben Shapiro, who's also a conservative media person, and he's a lot like Charlie Kirk. He debates, but he's on a different end. I don't know if you guys heard of Jordan Peterson, but he's in his lane, and a lot of them come out of pain. There's some sort of problem that they see, and then they're out there to solve it. So I think Moldova just needs to look at a problem and say, we're going to solve it, get some people together, and just try to solve it together and create some unity around it. So that's all. I think that's what Moldova needs, is that. Just to have a mindset that we want to solve a problem and we want to do it together, and then finding people that will rally with them, and then they pursue it together. Not fight over all the different variety of ways that can be done. Just agree on, what do we want to do? Like, if the church is do we want to grow the church or not? Like, what does that look like? And then you can find a variety of different ways of doing it, but what's our main mission? What's our main goal? And so I think Moldova is trying to fight for that. You don't need a Charlie Kirk. You just need, but Charlie Kirk, well, actually, let me rephrase. It's not about Charlie Kirk per se. It's just a leader who rallies around a common vision. That's all you need. And so decide who you want that to be. And if you can't find one, then be one.
Curând, soarta Moldovei se va decide la următoarele alegeri. Ce i-ai sfătui pe credincioși?
So my advice for believers is to educate yourself on a position. If you're a believer, obviously you want to center that around God. And then see of all the representatives that you have, who aligns with that the most, and then give your time and efforts to helping that person fight for you, put them in that position. And they should find a common ground and start looking for people that are going to lead them. And if there is no leader, then they need to lead themselves one way or another. That has to happen. They need to work on influencing their leaders. Talk to them about, what their position is. In America, this is a big deal. Like, we call it lobbying. So, lobby for your interests. And honestly, how are they ever going to know if you don't tell them? You want them to fight for you, but you won't tell them what you stand for. You got to tell them what you stand for. And so that's important. As a believer, we got to find ways. We have to understand what we agree on more than we disagree on. So that's, at the end of the day, we're all people. And if we're really looking at this world as if, this is temporary, then we got to find a way to say, all right, well, while we're here, how do we make our relationships, how do we maximize our relationships, the quality of our relationships and the quality of our lives together? What do we agree on, and how do we at least forward that? And how do we do that for Moldova? So when you're talking about the future of Moldova being decided, well, it's decided for at least a couple years. Because, again, your government collapses, and then you have a new one. So if you don't get it this round, you still have some time to go for it the next round. What you don't want to do is vote your way out of a democracy. Because that happened in Venezuela. It happened in other countries. So that's the future you don't want. And I would fight with everything I got to make sure you're at least not voting your way out of a democracy. So if you don't agree on positions, at least make sure you got people that are at least going to keep your democracy. Because if you don't have a common agreement, you can work that out at least for a few more years until you vote again. But the most important thing, at least right now in a young democracy, is to make sure that you can vote again, that you're not going to have the same kind of system that you've had in the past where you had this fake voting system, right? That looked like that you got what you're looking for. Make sure that you have a system that allows you to, you have the same support and structure that will allow you to at least change your mission later. But what's important right now is that you have a system that you can change later. That's what you want. Which means, the people who want to keep, a certain type of government here is going to fight for that, but that's okay. Truth will set you free, right? But at the end of the day, we all want freedom. We all want hope. We all want future. We all want to be able to have nice things for our kids. We all want to be able to make sure that they're in a playground and safe. We want to be able to go to a store and buy something and not just be bread. We want more. And so I would say if there's anything, make that, that should be at minimally the common ground. So fight for that. And then you don't have to get everything today. You can't compare yourself to America. America has been around for hundreds of years. And we fought with blood, a lot of it. And so, Moldova needs some time, like any country. It takes a business to, Google took a couple, Google's like over 30 years old, 20 something years old, right? So, it still takes some time. And so just give it some time, give your leadership some time to develop the systems. It takes a couple of years just to even learn the systems. It takes a couple of years just to even implement the systems. And then it takes a couple of years just to see the results of it. So, make sure you got the right people in place and then just give them some time to, make some stuff happen.
Mulți te-ar descrie ca un om de afaceri de succes, un investitor de succes, un fondator de succes. Dar discutând înainte de această emisiune, te-am văzut pasionat de lucrurile spirituale. De ce și cum ai ajuns să fii pasionat de ele?
Yeah, so, I grew up Christian, thank God.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't, it would probably be a lot harder.
It is the Lord.
But I did have my time. So, we all have our questions. We all wonder if we're, so my journey was I eventually went to a high school where I saw a lot of different countering beliefs, people that had some wild beliefs. And I asked myself, what makes my religion more true than everyone else's? And that started me on the journey where first I had to identify, is God real? Is God true? And there's only a couple, and so I'm very logical. I go very linear and analytical. So I thought through, all right, well, if God is real, he either has to talk to us or he doesn't. If he doesn't talk to us, then he can't blame us for not knowing him. So then I came to the conclusion that maybe he talked to us. So then the question is, how did he talk to us? All right, well, he's either going to speak to us, audibly or through something, but he's going to communicate one way or another. Well, so you evaluate all the religions and they all seem to have some common theme, it's like some sort of prophet or, a savior. So I thought, all right, well, which one of them is true? Well, if God's going to communicate to us through somebody, there has to be, you want to learn about those people. So you start learning about all the different prophets and all the different people who claim stuff. And really, you want to differentiate between people who claim, craziness versus people who, one of them is true. They all can't be true. So at some point you start looking into consistency and, archaeological evidence. Eventually I got into apologetics is what eventually happened. Anyways, through those journeys, I eventually came down to, okay, Jesus was real. So, and there's, go into apologetics if you want to really dive in there. But the conclusion I came to was Jesus is real. He communicated God. What did he say? And I either decide to abide by whatever he said or I don't. And that's where it comes down to obedience. Well, if you really believe in God and you really want to live like what God wants, it's, you start to, as you read the Bible and learn about God. And so I come more from a scientific, analytical, I'm the doubting Thomas, I'm not the big faith guy. And it's is he real or not? I'm going to put my whole life on this thing. I better know which one's true because I don't want to, play make-believe and whatever I feel and then all of a sudden die and find out. So I want to what's the statistical, variance. Now, I'm not saying that's the right way because God said, there was doubting Thomas and he wasn't the preferred method according to the Bible, but God still accepted him. So thank God. But that was my reality. So at some point, if God is real and I'm going to be obedient, then, and this is my one life, then God's real commandment is love God, love people. And if you want to love, if you're loving God, then you want to love who he loves. Just like if you have a family or a wife or a spouse or kids, you love what they love. That's how you display love. And so I was like, okay, well, that's the most true form of love is you love God without condition. And then the condition of God is, well, then love what I love, and he loves people. And then you start looking around and say, well, how do I do that? And then you see hurt and pain and all of this. And then it starts to become more real, okay, God wants me to help close the gap of pain and help challenge people to, get out of that pain and into a bright future, something that becomes more. And so I was like, okay, well, what do I do with that? So I'm going to live, I'm going to die. What do I do in between? And so then it just became more purposeful. So what do I want to do with this? And I start, all of a sudden you start thinking through, okay, what do I want to do? And at least God put, from the standpoint of business. And so that was for me. It's not for everybody because there's a lot of pain in that. But I think for me, it was business. For some people, it could be prayer. For some people, it's relationships. Some people, it's being a mechanic and fixing someone's car. For others, it's, going to someone's home and, mowing their lawn or something. So it's different for different people, but for that capacity, there's responsibility. And that's what I felt like it was for me. So that's what I was trying to do. And then eventually, if I don't do that, then it's just about me. There's only two options. It's either about me or it's about God. Now, it doesn't have to be not for me, which is a different problem, but because I can't help others if I can't take care of myself. But, I don't have to be exclusively me either. So how do I do that? And so that question was more about, all right, well, invest into myself, grow me, and then that me creates access, and that access I can share. And even if I don't have access, I can still have me, I can still share me. So what do I have to offer? And then all of a sudden at that point, everything is spiritual. Because if it's about God and it's about love, it's not spiritual anymore. It's just God. You're not just, I just happen to be here. It's physical, spiritual. If you're just going to love God, just like you love your family, you're not familial. You're not, it's not spiritual. It's not familial. You're not a politician. It's like, you're just you, and you're just going to display God's love. And then you just happen to be in a family, so you display God's love in family. You happen to be in a friends group, hanging out at a movie theater. You just happen to be, that's how you got, love God there. I'm in business, so I got to find a way of loving God that way. And so everything just becomes like, how do I become a vessel for God's love? And that's no longer spiritual, it's identity. And so that's, I don't try to distinguish that. I just try to, hopefully I'm acting out my identity. Or if I'm not, then I have to start questioning my identity. But, that's its own thing.
În încheiere, dacă ai fi să dai un sfat antreprenorilor creștini din țara noastră, care ar fi acest sfat?
This is a common question for Moldova. I always say you got to start with your why. Business is hard, and I get this question a lot. Everybody wants to be a businessman. Interestingly, everybody also wants to be an IT. In America, everybody wants to be a doctor and lawyer. So it's always about where the money is. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's okay. But if you don't know your why, fighting in a very competitive world is not fun. It's like, why would you run a marathon? If your goal is to win a marathon, but you hate running, why? Run your own race. So find your why, what it is that you want to do, what you want to accomplish, what is your talents. Get good at that. Once you're good at that, then you can decide, do you want to start a business, or do you want to lead, or do you want to follow? I have a friend, or he's my number 2 guy. He's my sales manager, my general manager, super awesome Christian guy. And I love how he leads my company. I put him in front of a lot of things because he's such a great Christian leader. And I'm more of a business guy, so and he's more of a leader. So I put him in front of a lot of things. But he doesn't want to start a company. He just wants to be strong because he has a big family. He's adopted a lot of kids. Like he's not trying to take risks. He just wants to be a strong manager and lead people. He doesn't want to start things. He wants to lead things. But I have another guy who wants to start things. So he and I are starting things together, and we'd say, well, we're going to start things, and we'll put him to go lead it. And so everybody has their place. And if you do really well think about like the executives of NVIDIA, or NVIDIA actually started the company, but like this current CEO of Microsoft or Apple, they can start their own companies all day long, but they're leading big companies. So I would encourage So there's two distinct people I'll speak to and advise. It's like, if you're not already an entrepreneur, focus on being a leader first. Focus on leading people, focus on being great at what you do. And if you do that really well, you'll probably make a lot of money. And if you don't make a lot of money, that's okay. But, you can go into business and still not make a lot of money. But find what your why is and be passionate about it. Excel in it, be excellent, grow in it, and then love people while you're in it. So so that's if you're not already an entrepreneur. If you're already an entrepreneur, still find your why. Make sure you're honing in on it and try to use this as an opportunity to lead your people. And I would say you got to focus on your bottom line, no matter what, but not make that the exclusive purpose. I mean, losing a little bit of money so you can take care of people is not a bad thing, especially if you're a Christian. Now, you don't want to be all about people losing money, because then at some point you can't take care of people. But there's probably something wrong if that's happening. But what you want to do is, it's all about people. It's about relationships. No matter what, as a leader, as an entrepreneur, it's all about relationships and the people that surround you. You can't be good at everything. So be good at whatever you want to be good at. Be great. Be the best at whatever you're going to be great. And plus, as a Christian, that's one of the best testimonies, is being great and giving glory to God. People follow what's great. So, and then making sure you can help others do that. So be great in what you're in, excel, and then bring others closer to that. And if you do, and always try to bring people in and bring other people that are great, let them be in their lane. You do not have to compete. The people that are great, if we're all great together, we can compete together, but we can do it friendly. We can enjoy it. And especially, places like this, there's plenty of competition. We might as well do it as Christians. We might as well do it together. And then if you have the position of leadership, enjoy that, honor that. If you have a boss, honor him or her, and make sure that you're able to exemplify Christ even in that. Because if you're given if you can be great, then you can, and then you can lead. And once you're leading, you have influence. And once you have influence, that's where Christ can really be known. So they'll either see you as an example because you're excellent, or you're able to share your example through leadership. And that's what I would say to do. It's not about being an entrepreneur. There's plenty of ways of making money without being an entrepreneur. That's my role. So I would strongly encourage being an entrepreneur, but you don't need to be an entrepreneur. Find a way, first find your why, and then lead either by example or by sharing your example.
Andreu, mi-a făcut o plăcere să avem această discuție atât de interesantă și abia așteptăm să te revedem în Moldova și să avem o discuție productivă, atât pentru antreprenorii creștini, cât și pentru cei care vrem să devină creștini.